as of today, I decided we'd come into the shop to carve. The video I just uploaded a moment ago was one I recorded last night, and it was kind of like about how I'm working on these special nativities here and the little special figures for them, just by kind of doing things as randomly as I do. And did want to come on here just to say that there's probably going to be some stuff we'll catch up on from the next video. I know in the last video I made mention of, I probably didn't get to finish this because I was talking about this when the video cut off at the end, where I had to add that little extra on there, but we talked about, the thing about when you try to do something yourself and fail and learn to rely on God for it. There was, of course, that preacher I mentioned who preached that thing years ago at that homeless ministry where he asked us that question, and me being like the only one who raised my hand, had that experience, kind of wanted to share because it was just something to say. Of course, there's been times even since then that I've done the same in places, and I don't remember what I was talking about to that matter that happened sometime later that I was talking about before that, but we just will kind of move on from that, I think, because today's a different kind of day. I enjoyed being out on the porch yesterday to carve, but it is a little bit colder today. I went out to McConnell Springs for my Woodcarvers Guild meeting this morning, and it just so happened that it was a little too cold for me to stay out there, and they kind of carved on the patio like they do. When it starts getting colder, like winter, they start meeting indoors inside the education center and doing it later in the afternoon. So that's just kind of how things have worked to that matter over years, and this is just a time when I decide that I want to come on and show little other steps. And I showed you all a little thing as to how we did Mary and Joseph the last time, but I think that this time around I'd probably like to do these faces little by little and try to carve the faces first. I heard a little mention sometime today in the guild where one of my fellow carvers was telling somebody on some things that you carve the face first, because that way if you mess up the face after you carved the rest of the body, you don't forfeit all the work you put into carving the rest. So I'd say that for this little day we're going to try to work on some little things just a little more. And I'd say for these wise men, we might do the same thing where we kind of do like this, but I think I'm going to probably have a place where I'm going to make little divisions at about the middle, because we're going to want there to be a place about halfway up from their nose for their crown to go, because wise men are like kings, according to what we have heard said over years. And we're kind of putting this together so we can have these little wise men do what they do and be of the little character they have to come to be when we work about our stuff. And I'd say at this moment we just got the two poplar ones. We've got one here that we're going to do from Kentucky Coffee Tree, and which I'd say came out as a little bit of a thicker piece. And we've got a couple here that are walnut as well. We're going to put a little work and carving into those too, and try to see how this is going to work for the better when we get all done with it, and see what kind of joy comes in our work. And it's always been a shame over years, all the things they didn't have 20 years ago, to kind of make it where we could kind of do this sort of work in a little bit of a relaxing way, and so I decided this time around go about to the middle of this piece and put a little mark there and make it so it lines up with here where we put the mark on the next piece too, and try to kind of line it up right on the other side as well, and put the little mark right in there to make it so there's going to be a little top of a crown in there. And I say this is just going to be the best way that our work shall come along when we all get done in the end. And, you know, this is just the pleasure I've had with things. Makes me always think back on a certain nativity I made years ago when all I had was a scroll saw, some sandpaper, and some paint. No carving tools or anything like that to work with. So that was how it was all worked back then. And of course, I mean, on that one, I did little interesting things. I kind of painted zebra stripes on one of the coats to one of the shepherds. And with all little work we do, I say that time is taken over, and oh well, I say it's just the woe of our work. And I tell y'all, there's been little things going on with taxes lately. Back in late June, early July, I had a tax statement that was due, and we'll say that I filled it out, but probably what I forgot to do was submit it after it was filled out. So when I went to recently to fill out my tax statement for September, I saw that the one for June had not been paid. So I went ahead, paid that, and took care of it, but did find out a little something about a fee that I was going to owe. So I got a little notice in the mail about that today, and I went online, took care of that, got the fee paid. Everything is good as far as I know. Hopefully I won't get any more email notices or anything like that about anything else, but I'd say I feel like we've gotten things taken care of the best way we can, the best way we need them to be, and decided after going this far, might even go ahead and add an extra line about a square space below on each of these. These little ones from the poplar here, we're going to work about them and see how they're going to be when they get to be the work they're going to come out to be. And always good to try to make things a little unique. I tell you all that there's been times in years when I've kind of had more time on my hands to do more random stuff, and even have sometimes made some nativities just from plain old pieces of branch. And thankfully, it was a good thing that I got one of those out at McLeod's Coffee House and had a lady come by and purchase it. That was sure a blessing, and, you know, just knowing that your work gets out there and surely makes a lot of things really worth the time and the space and the effort. And whoa, I say that, oh, a lot of work can come this way and show us all we just got a little brightness in our paths. You know, I say that there's little work we do, make things come a long way. Decided I'd make this other little line here to go this way, and to sort of like make a little angle slash from the top of the, or let's see, I'd say that maybe it would be better to make it go to the back, because that's probably the best way that a crown should go. And I say that a little time and effort in these pieces is going to be the best thing. You'd say these wise men, they're going to have incredibly short beards compared to Joseph, but that wouldn't hurt nothing, because it'll make all the pieces a little bit more extra unique to go in the long run, and see how little ways a little work can make things brighter, better, easier to say, and perhaps even, I'd say, square them off with the mustaches. Try to make it so, I guess for this, give them a square beard, or a little mustache that goes to the edge, kind of like an interesting little sailor type or something. And decide I'm gonna make the same lines on this other little walnut one. Try to work away a little about it, and bless the little work of our hands. We are getting so we work a lot and make things a lot and see a lot, and tell you all that there's just a little ways of doing little special things in life, and how that we just go along and work our way about little things in life. And I say this is just some kind of work that is just making itself special and unique. You see how we got the mustache around the beard there, and I think we're gonna make the same little lines along these poplar pieces as well. Make it so the crown goes all the way from the front to the back, and then just make sure we get little lines, go halfway around, take it all to the special place in life where it is all supposed to go, and see how some of this stuff, it may also just make you think of a special little pirate or something. It almost comes out with where the face is almost like that of one of those pirates to say, "What say me, ye hearties?" And kind of work the way to how this goes, and put the extra time and effort along. Oh, I say, little lines make little faith see how we grow and how we do. I tell y'all that this is just my kind of work in life. Oh, a sailor indeed. Oh, that one thing we know about God and His grace, and how good He is to us, making us so we see brighter days, brighter mornings, brighter evenings. Oh, and so much I'll share as we get a little further on, but there's probably going to be a little bit more detail to these than there was to the others. Kind of try to make it so we get the lines just right, and so work our way along this, work our way along that, see how special and unique a little piece of work can be. We're all going to get it done sooner or later. See things beyond the sky and the clouds that we do not already know. And then here we got the little face done out this way, and think as we come along, we're going to take care of this last one as well. Try to put the line from the front to the back to go around the head. Put a little place here, put a little place here, and make a little diagonal slash line to go along the rest of the way, and see how little this critter is going to come. Oh, I say that creatures are a great thing, and people and animals work together in the kingdom of God. We know that there was a lot to learn. I don't know that I'm going to get every piece done this year. It could even take me about a little more of a year of thinking through just to get more ideas or more scraps as to how I'm going to come up with other pieces like the cattle, the shepherd, the sheep. And with all this work as it has come along, I'm going to say a thing or two, maybe draw a line along the back to make the back part of the crown, and kind of do it with the other as well. Get the proper lines in place, get the proper work done, and then just kind of make these extra little lines where we make the back of the crown to this buddy, and got another one coming along with which we're going to do quite the very same thing, and then see how a little ways we do comes along with what we have. And so I say that it's just kind of like the way we come about doing the things like this. Oh, and work shall make a way about us to where we brighten lives in every way. We come up with the little crown there. We come up, and we've already kind of done where we've done the sides here, but we're going to draw the line across the back to make the back of the crown and the back of the head stand still, and put it all in the little place where it ought to be, and work our way along this little piece of wood as it comes, and see what we do next to brighten lives and days and nights. And oh, I say maybe even come back, and I guess I'd say maybe put some saw marks into the top of that crown. Be nice to maybe carve some little angles in there, but that can kind of wait till its own time. We're going to try to make little places around here, and maybe try to make this video so it's not much longer than 40 minutes. Try to set our limits so it doesn't cut off automatically on us, and then try to work our way to where we get the little royal crown done. Like, speaking of that, you know, RC Cola, that stands for Royal Crown. And then just for these lines around the edge, carve them along, and see how a little ways can take us up to somewhere. And all about this work, you know, it's just the kind of work that we all ought to have for our lives. Make the little crown go around and around, and this is where pieces come along and go, because I've done whimsical nativities in the past where the wise men were the first things to be made, and then there'd come along Mary, and there'd come along other creatures, and the angels be for there would be Mary and Joseph to come along in it. And so that was just the way that the work came along for that, and how we did that particular set. And I think when it came to that set, that the shepherds were probably one of the last things that were made. They were a little bit different because they kind of just had a flat little head that was turned to the side, and just kind of had a little burn in of some initials in wood, and there was a little black sheep on its back that was kind of given a little bit of a black coat of stain for the sheep. And then whenever it came to the rest, I mean, we kind of carved the robe out of Turkish walnut, the head out of Kentucky coffee tree. And I'll tell you a little story about that little shepherd is how that it was almost like how I deemed that the black sheep would represent the prodigal son. I did have two white sheep with the shepherd, but that one black sheep that was on the shepherd's back, it was like the shepherd bringing home that black sheep was an illustration of the father bringing home the prodigal son. We all kind of know what the black sheep means, and tell you, in my family, I'm the black sheep. Just kind of telling you that for your information, so you know. It's a little interesting to find out, but I say that, you know, I manage it. They're accepting of me. They forgive me for the things I've done, but, you know, I mean, we've all just kind of made little mistakes in our lives and done things we shouldn't, and if our families are good to us, they forgive us all. So, kind of how it goes. So, just say that work comes along, and I can hear my brother and my niece upstairs, and decided, since it is kind of cold to be out on the porch today, like I said, decided that today I would be in the shop doing all this, and probably be in the shop just to kind of be away from all the noise, because out there on that couch where I usually carve, it can just get to the point where people can be walking back and forth. They can be doing no telling what, and they can be kind of having to go through that space to get what they need. And I decided back here in the shop, this is just a little bit more of a peaceful place to be, where I can just kind of record and carve a little more quietly, and have a little more space to myself to kind of just, I'd say, do the simple things. And think we're going to say we've got a couple more crown bottoms to carve out, and a little ways more to go, and then hopefully we can be a little more done after this, and be having taken care of things the best way we could or knew how to do. And you know, it's just a time when I just see niceties on Etsy that I really want. So I'm just trying not to go out places a lot, trying not to spend a lot of money right now. So that's just been the little good thing for me lately, and really has helped me with all my ambitions, and, you know, all the things I really like in life, all the things I really want, and, you know, see a lot of things that are so special and unique, things that are just so hard to come by these days. And so I was talking at McConnell Springs to that lady at the desk, and she was telling me, we were talking about how on Etsy we see all this taxidermy that I like and like to purchase and set up in my bedroom, and how it's just one of those things where, with all we have now, I mean, the taxidermy is just something, she said, that is making a popular comeback. A lot of people are seemingly taking interest in it these days. So it's out there, you know, it's out there. And so I guess I'd say they sell it online, but I'll tell you what you won't find on Etsy. You won't find anything that's endangered. I will tell you that for sure. No need to worry about that, because it's against policies, and most of all, illegal. kind of came up with another idea as to how we might do these backs of heads. Decided that for here, the way we kind of got the mustache going out to the edge, decided I'd draw a line to the back and make another line coming up so that this could be the front of the face and this could be the back hair. So we're going to try to make those lines come along, make them come easy and good and slow. And I say that we got another little line to make going in the back of the king, and I say we're seeing little strange things now and then coming along. Oh, work, I say, I tell y'all that this is just coming the way it's going to be, and so maybe I'll tell y'all that there's just something we do to make these extra little lines to make the king's hair and all, so it's just going to be what we do, what we have, what we say. And I think about how when I was a kid, we had that cassette tape called Wise Guys and Starry Skies, which was a little skit we performed in church that was about the wise men. And, you know, I tell you, all things I just learned from that stuff. I say, you know, learning from the tape that the wise men's names were Melchior, Gaspar, and Balthazar. And one day I was in Sunday school with my Sunday school teacher and mentioned those names, and he says, no, now the Bible doesn't tell us how many there were. The Bible doesn't tell us what their names are. I said, and I will tell you, first of all, that is the truth, but at the time I was saying to him, but that's what my tape says. My tape knows their names. I said, and it knows how many there are. Then he says, well, do you think the Bible knows more or that your tape knows more? I tell y'all one thing, people. I mean, I personally believe the Bible, but it's just not the kind of thing where I would come on here and say that you should. Sometimes I do get on here and preach. Sometimes I do get on here and share a little word, but I will tell you, sometimes I get on here and just say what I believe. You know, you're free to believe whatever you like to, but personally, I appreciate the Bible. I appreciate the Word. So, that's what I'll say. Do want to give you all one more little statement I make, and told you last night about my brother being in urgent care. I'd say that, won't go into detail about that yet. I've been talking to some close friends about it, but if I don't know you well enough that you can message me on social media to ask me where I can message you and tell you, then I don't know you well enough that I want to tell you. So, or that I'm not ready to talk about it yet, unless we're close friends. So, that's kind of where I'm just going to draw the line right now, set my boundaries, and we'll have a little bit more to go about, share about. I do see what the time is getting to be on the video, and wanted to say that it always gets to be just a great time to come on here, see everybody, do everything, watch everybody, and oh, I tell you, little work that comes my way into my hands. What a blessed day, I say. Sometimes I think about eternal life and heaven and can't wait for that. Think about how I've got a generation that's going to be there with me, and even people in this generation who are very young, if they know Jesus as their Savior, they'll be there too. There's just some little things I might come across here. Maybe kind of go about the little heads again, kind of make little lines in here and put it where the back of the head is going to be in place. I'm sure that when all these figures come out, they're probably going to come out very square and rectangular, and sometimes I just kind of like it that way. Sometimes I like to make my own patterns that way whenever it comes to things. So that's how sometimes I'd say is just the way it's going to be. And with all this little work, I say it's just kind of nice to have a little special kingship in life and work about our hands. And there's places we'll go where the gospel will go with us, and there's a lot we share in life just to say that people are real to us. I mean, my niece is upstairs right now, and my brother was just up there playing with her, and they were kind of coming out of the car, and my brother was getting her out of the car, and she was like, "I see Uncle Jonathan. I see Uncle Jonathan." And, she's been saying hi to me lately. I've been trying to kind of say hi to her and be nice to her, but, I will tell you all that I've got a lot in my hands. I'm kind of doing a lot of work, just trying to keep a business going right now and trying to be real busy taking care of that, and think there's a place where we're going to make these little lines that separate the back hair from the front face and kind of make it so these little lines can come the way they do and brighten us up. And with all things, I say just these little places in the wood where we kind of do our little work, drive, and say it's just kind of a special, blessed thing. We know things are kind of going a little different right now in the lives of different ones of us. We're all kind of seeing different things, experiencing different things, learning different things. There are those in the world who have different viewpoints, and we know that there's even this year that my state, Kentucky, has a governor election coming up. There's just a lot going on TV about these governor candidates, and our incumbent governor is running for a second term, and we have another fellow running against him. We don't know who it's going to be yet. There's just a lot going on in the state over this, and a lot of ads on TV. I don't really watch TV, but my parents do, and they have it on in the living room, and there's some of it that I see if I'm up in the living room with them. So that's how I learn about some of this stuff, find out about some of this stuff, and see some of this stuff. It's kind of where little strange things will happen and take us to places where we do not know the outcome of where we are or what we do. But I say Kentucky is a good state. It's probably the only state where you would find Kentucky coffee tree, but I'd say, one time I was on eBay and I bought some from a seller in Indiana. It might have even been on the Kentuckiana border, where that little area that is like closely between Kentucky and Indiana area, and that area where I purchased it from was probably fairly close, and probably an area where that was close enough to Kentucky that they could have it. But I learned when I was really young in Woodcarvers Guild, there's only two places you'll find a coffee tree that's either in Japan or America. And I said, well, what about the tree they get Folgers coffee from? Then somebody said, well, they don't grow on a tree, they grow on a bush. Those grow in Brazil. And that was kind of a nice little interesting thing to learn. And there's even been times when I've thought at times back when I was still doing a lot of exotic woodwork, I used to want wood from that bush that real coffee beans grew off of. And so I tell you, there had been a guy at the Woodcraft that time who was about to take a trip to Guatemala where they would have that, and said he'd try to get me some if he could. And I said, well, if you can, that'll be wonderful, and I'll try to do you a favor in return. Now, the thing of it is that, like we say, it's not easy for everybody to do everything they say they do, or not everything they wish they could do, or not everything they hope they could do. I feel like there's some things in life I'm getting a little bit better over now because I've got some exotic wood in my shop that is special because it's kind of a sentiment of where it's from and wherever I ordered it. And so there's a little piece of cacao wood I have that comes from the tree that chocolate grows off of. And as far as I'm concerned right now, I'm not thinking I'm going to use that to make anything because I guess I just decided after all it was much too precious a piece of wood to do that with because it's expensive and it's hard to come by these days, and especially ever since the pandemic struck, there's just been more types of wood that have become harder to get off of eBay anymore. And it just used to be that on eBay I'd see all these kinds of woods and thought they were interesting types, wanted to try to work with them, saw pear wood and lemon wood and things like that, and because certain fruits grew off of them was why I wanted to try them. But I asked the guy about carving those, and he told me that pear was too stringy and lemon was too hard. This was Calvin Grant, who I've told you about in some of my other videos. And the thing I learned is that, of course, Bradford pear is a wood that grows here around Kentucky. I mean, we don't have the kind of weather that the pear trees can actually sprout fruit in, but we do have the kind of climate in which they can sprout just to make those beautiful leaves that a lot of people like to see on their lawns. And that's what around here people grow Bradford pear trees for. And I even took some of that wood, and when we had an ice storm, collected a lot of Bradford pear wood off the side of the road after that, tried to make a lot of things out of it. But what was a little unfortunate about it was that, yes, it was a little too stringy to carve, just as I found out, and it was the kind of wood which, as I discovered, it just breaks apart too easily when you try to make certain things out of it. I tried to make a little musical instrument out of it that's kind of like a piece that two spoons come off of that you tap like this, and it makes a little music, but it also just so happened that that thing broke in half when I did it, so I kind of ended up taking the two pieces and making two separate spoons off of them. I mean, and they were both spoons in which I sort of did little burnings or engravings with a rotary tool of different tribes of Native Americans. So that was probably just one little good thing that I liked about that. And fortunately, I'd say both of those spoons sold. That was the wonderful thing as well. I always like it when my work gets sold out in places and people still have it in places where they see it, look at it, and all the rest. The way I sign my initials, JDP, is kind of unique for how it works, and it's not on every piece of work that I get to put my I Choose Charity Over Bitterness label, but there's been plenty of pieces of work on which I have gotten to label that and gotten to have people to see it, and it's just one of those things where on the pieces of work that have it, I've just always appreciated the fact I could put it on there for people to see, for people to love, and for people to read and go by. And I tell you all, some people, they just tell me how much they just appreciate that quote more than anything. And however, since the days when I was distributing cassette tapes, distributing CDs and MP3 discs, and even just little things made off of the scroll saw that I gave as gifts, I always put labels with that phrase on them, and people always appreciated it over the years, what it said and the good reminders, and even made some denim pillows where I took little Sharpie markers and wrote that on the front and put red hearts with X's and O's around them and kind of gave those out as gifts as well. I always enjoyed reaching out to people in those ways, but I tell you, times have changed and I've gotten older and gotten to where I have to be a little bit more business oriented these days. So I just kind of use the phrase in a whole different way as kind of like a little trademark phrase to kind of keep the business going. I do think we're going pretty far on this video. It's already been 40 minutes and don't want it to cut off too soon while I'm right in the middle of saying something. So think I'm going to end it just about now. And at this moment, just want to say thank you for watching. Take care and be blessed.